The iPhone 13 mini came out in September 2021 alongside the 6.1-inch iPhone 13 and 13 Pro and the much larger 6.7-inch iPhone 13 Pro Max. This was the mini phone offering, even smaller than the iPhone SE that was also being sold alongside at that time. That was the second generation, which was the iPhone that I had before upgrading to this new one. I've had this for a couple of months. I want to let you know the things I like about it, the things I don't like about it, and what it was like upgrading from an SE to a 13 mini. So let's talk tech. I'm Arnell with Ardently Tech. On this channel we talk all things tech with videos of product reviews like this one, tech hacks, tutorials, and a lot more. So whether you're somebody that's ever been confused by tech or you're somebody that just wants to learn more about it, subscribe for more videos like this. So for the specs for the iPhone 13 mini, it comes with a 5.4-inch Retina XDR display, comes with an A15 bionic chip, IP68 water and dust resistance, a dual 12 megapixel rear camera with ultra wide, a 12 megapixel front camera with Face ID, and comes in either 128, 256, or 512 gigabytes. So for the performance for the iPhone 13 mini, I gotta say it does really well. So I can scroll on web pages, I can scroll on social media. I never really notice any stutter or slowdown, especially when I have like 20 or 30 different apps that are open. It does very well with jumping between apps, and just for the most part, anything that I throw at it, it does really well. I've never noticed any kind of hesitation or stutter, so it's really solid in the performance department. It does great whether I'm on Wi-Fi or data, and speaking of data, this iPhone 13 mini does have 5G capability, whereas my older phones did not, so I've definitely noticed an upgrade in speed when I'm just out and about using data. So it's just great having ultra fast speed, good performance from this smaller iPhone. The battery life on the iPhone 13 mini is great. I can get through just about a whole day and more with the battery on this phone. So I usually wake up around 6, 7 o'clock, get through my day of just your normal average usage. I, spend some time on YouTube, scrolling on social media, looking up stuff on Google, texting and FaceTiming and all that kind of stuff that you would do with your phone on a normal basis. And I can pretty easily get through my whole day and end up putting it back on the charger right before I go to bed around 9 or 10 o'clock, and I still have about 20% battery. So it's great having a smaller phone that doesn't feel like just because the battery size is physically smaller as well, you're not losing in the battery life department. Apple has really done a great job of optimizing the software on this phone and for you to get as long of a battery life as you possibly can. The camera on the iPhone 13 mini is great as well. So the dual 12 megapixel cameras on the back give you nice, crisp, clear photos, lots of contrast, lots of just beautiful saturation. Definitely does great in your highlight situations where you have the sun is just outside or you have a really brightly lit indoor environment, but it also does decently well in low light environments as well. It's nighttime, you're in a dark room, you can actually get pretty good camera quality photos that are taken very well. You can tell, at least for the most part, what you're trying to get a picture of. You can tell very clearly what it is. The camera's video features are really great. This does feature cinematic mode, so if you have your subject in focus, and then your subject will be clear, and then the whole background behind the subject is going to be completely blurred out, and you get a really good solid depth of field. Now this does great in certain instances, so I would only use it sparingly, because if you use it all the time and if the lighting isn't perfect, then you're gonna get those definite obvious shots of the subject and the edges of the subject starting to get that blurry line all around it, and you're just gonna get that overly processed video look that just doesn't look good at all. Now this does also have 4K video, so you can actually do 4K at 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. Really great quality video they can get out of this phone. And the camera is so good that this is actually the camera we're using to record this particular video, so you can actually treat this whole video that you're watching on this review as an extended test on the camera itself. Now switching gears to talk about my experience coming from the second generation iPhone SE, which was my last phone, and jumping to this iPhone 13 mini. I gotta say, it was a big night and day difference for me. Some good and some bad. I'll save the bad and the cons a little bit later in the video. But as for the good, I love the much larger display on this smaller form factor. So the iPhone 13 mini is actually a hair smaller physically than the iPhone SE. And that's because the iPhone SE, while it has a smaller screen, it has very large bezels. And when you go to a full screen phone like the iPhone 13 mini, and you try to switch back to a phone that has bezels, you're gonna notice a massive difference in how you use the phone and how you can see all the things that are on the screen. I mean, you're definitely gonna notice those bezels. So coming to a full screen display was just amazing for me. I mean, it made everything so immersive. Just even your YouTube videos, you can see, you know, just everything in just much larger detail. Just coming to a full screen is just great, and there's nothing like it. So with switching to a full screen phone, now you have to learn gestures, and you have to learn your gestures to get to the home screen, to get to the multitasking, and to bring down your control center, and a couple of other gestures as well. So it's a little bit of a different experience than just pressing the home button on your SE or an older iPhone, or double pressing it to pull up the app switcher. So it's a little bit of a different experience there, and for some that might be a con for them. For others, it actually helps with the new experience, you know, feeling like you've actually upgraded to a new and different phone, and that for me is kind of a plus in some ways and a little bit of a con in other ways, but again, I'll save that for the cons portion. So real quick, drop a comment down below. Let me know if you are sad at all that there are no more iPhone minis. I'm a little sad about that. I do love the smaller form factor, and it would be great to see some kind of new iPhone mini come down the road. On to the cons. First up being the gesture controls. So I know I just praised how the gesture controls help you feel like you're getting a completely different new experience with your phone, but for me, the gestures, I'm not a fan of them. So I like that we now have a full screen iPhone, and I'm okay with the home button actually being removed. And I mean, it makes sense with the trend of all new phones going with the full screen route. And so with everybody doing that, physical buttons are just sort of going by the wayside. And so it makes sense that iPhones would also do this as well. But the gestures and how they choose to do it, just, they don't really sit well with me. And I'm a little bit in the weird camp of, I actually like how certain Android phones do it. If you swipe up from the bottom, then 3 buttons will pop up. You have your back button, your home button, and then your multitask button. I like knowing that if I swipe up from the bottom and if I hit that middle button, then I know that it's going to take me to the home screen. Whereas the gestures on the iPhones, if you swipe up a certain way, it's going to get you to the home screen, but if you swipe up halfway, it gets you to your app switcher. And so once you eventually get it down packed, then it's great. I mean, you're used to it, but it's all dependent on how you use the phone and how you do the swipe. So kind of a nitpick, but that's one of the cons that just really kind of irk me about this particular phone and just my experience of switching to it. Second, whoever at Apple took the bright idea of actually changing the power button to no longer power off your phone, but instead to activate Siri is just not my favorite person at Apple right now. So I don't really like that the power button is actually an inconsistent button. And what I mean by that is your power button is a power button if your phone is off. So for example, if your phone is off, you hit that side button, it will turn on your phone. That's what a power button does. How do you turn off your phone? Normally you would hold down that same button that turns it on, and you would press that down and it'll turn it off. But no, once the phone is on, now the function of that button is now completely different, and it now activates Siri. So once you've learned and gotten past the learning curve of what this button does and what scenario it will do this and what scenario it'll do that, again, you just get used to it and you deal with it. But it's just really silly that now you have to look up how to turn off your phone. You have to look up the different button combinations. You know, the power up and the volume down button, I believe, will turn off your phone. In my opinion, it would have made more sense, instead of holding down the power button to activate Siri, it would have made more sense if you double press it or if you triple press it. I understand that some people don't use the, calling for Siri just audibly with their voice to activate it, and so they like having that physical button. No problem with that. I just don't think that holding down the home button was the smartest idea for them. And next for the cons is a weird nitpick of mine, but it's something that I've only noticed after switching to this new iPhone. So when I'm on a phone call, I can no longer change the volume of the call without removing the phone from my face, waiting until the screen activates, and then changing the volume. That, I don't know if it's just a full screen iPhone thing, maybe they've had it since the 10 and I just wasn't aware of it, or if it's a new iOS thing, but again, it's something that I've only noticed after switching to this 13 mini, and when I was on that iPhone SE, I was up to the same iOS that I'm running right now on my 13 mini, so don't think it's an iOS issue. I think it's more an iPhone 13 issue just in general, or maybe it's just a full screen phone issue itself. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing, and it's something that's definitely bothered me and has come up quite a bit on phone calls that I've had. But all that being said, I know I just threw a lot of cons at you. I still love this phone. I love the smaller form factor of it. I love the back to basics of getting smaller and smaller with these phones that are getting bigger and bigger. I love the bigger screen display. I mean, I think it's the best of both worlds. It's a small phone, but it's not a small display. And I keep coming back to that screen because it really changes the way that you use your phone and how you interact with it. And you get a phenomenal camera, and you get access to MagSafe. I didn't even mention that in this video. That's a whole other video. We have a video on MagSafe accessories. Definitely check that out. But you get MagSafe with this phone, whereas you didn't get that before with the iPhone SE. And so you get access to a lot of different things that you didn't get if you were coming from an older iPhone. And that's where you're really gonna see this phone shine, is if you're coming from an older phone and you're looking for an upgrade, but you don't wanna spend $1,000 on the 14 Pro. And you get it for a reasonable price at $600, and they are on sale often. We'll have Amazon affiliate links down below. That helps support our channel and helps you to stay up to date with the prices on these phones as well. So if I had to give this phone a rating, I'm gonna give it a 9.3 out of 10. The cons are definitely there, but as I said before in the cons, they are a bit of nitpicks. Some people might not have issues with those, other people will, but all the other things I just absolutely love about this phone, and I can put up with those cons all day as long as I still have all those things that this brilliant phone has. So if you enjoyed this video, but full screen iPhones just aren't your thing, definitely check out this video on the iPhone SE. This is the 2nd generation. It's a review I did last year on my old phone. Definitely check that out. Or if you're somebody that is leaning away from iPhones and leaning more towards Android, definitely check out this video from Adrian where we go over the Google Pixel 7 and 7 Pro that was recently announced just a few months ago. So, appreciate you watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.